Hi, I'm Zach from Better Bet. It's a beautiful day, so let's talk some basketball. Let's talk about the Pacers and Hornets matchup tonight. These are the books I use. When you think about the Pacers and Hornets, you might remember that they played each other earlier in the season, where the Pacers beat the Hornets by 9 points. Pretty consistently across every quarter, they outscored. Kind of flagged a little bit there in the fourth quarter, but that happens. When we look at some injuries here, remember here on the Pacers, Topin and Halliburton are both out. So is Mathurian and Jackson. They're playing a little shorthanded. The Hornets, Plumlee's out, Williams is out. A couple guys are questionable. So when we're thinking about this game and this matchup and the point spread here, we should be thinking about what players are out. We should also be thinking about how these teams have played against each other so far this season with these rosters. Looking at the records, it doesn't give you too much insight here. Pacers have been pretty terrible. But if we look at their team stats, so let's look at the Hornets. Let's look at points per game here. When these two teams played each other back in mid-November, the Hornets put up 118 points. Over their last 3 games, they're averaging just over 110 points a game. You can kind of see that here with this green line. That's a little bit lower than their season-long average, or their average over the last 24 games, 114.6. All right, so we're thinking 110-ish for the Hornets. And when we look at the Pacers, let's look at the Pacers' points. They won that previous matchup by 9, and the Pacers are putting up about 118.6 points per game on average over the last 3, and that's significantly higher than their average over the last 24. That being said, with the people who are out, I'm leaning towards taking the Pacers at plus 3.5. Out of the books I use, I don't actually use Kalshi or Polymarket, but I'll include them here because it's kind of interesting to see sometimes what those prediction markets are doing. It looks like the best price across all the books I can use is minus 104 for Pacers at plus 3.5. And that's at Polymarket. All right, so I better remove Polymarket from my list here, and I'll remove Kalshi also, just to see what price I can actually get. That's interesting, even better. So it looks like ProfitX has the best line for me at Pacers plus 3.5. So I'll go bet that. I'll place my bet here in a little bit, and I'll share the bet along when I share this video. But I just want to put it in my slip there. Now, let's talk about some player props in this game. I like betting NBA player props. I tend to do well on them. So let's look at player points. And we'll look at Ball's points per game here. Looks like right now, at the books I use, the line is at 17.5. So we'll come in here and look at points. His points per game, looks like he played 27 minutes the last time these two teams matched up, and he put up 18. Respectable. Hell of a lot better than I could do. So I'm going to use the Better Bet modeling here. Let's see, it's 17.5. So drop this down to 17.5. And it looks like the Better Bet model is saying there's about a 55% chance that he gets over 17.5 points in this game. That's converted to American odds. That's a minus 122. So if I can find a line that's over 17.5 at a price that is shorter odds than minus 122, that's a good bet here. So now we just got to look. Let's see, Caesars and FanDuel both have it at minus 114. Hard Rock's minus 115, so is BetMGM. ProfitX doesn't have a line up there. And DraftKings is at minus 119. So here, the way I decide when I have two books that have the same points and the same price, I pick whichever one I think I need some better action in terms of like rewards and stuff like that. You just have to have some way to pick between the two of them. I don't care. Pick a coin. Do whatever you want to do. I'll take the line at FanDuel. And so now I selected it, and I'll go put it in my FanDuel slip here. Again, I'll bet it and share my actual bet after this video comes out. The other player I want to look at is Siakam. I don't know how to say that. I speak terrible French. I know enough to annoy my kids with omelette du fromage when they ask for omelets. Siakam, maybe, is a decent enough French pronunciation. I am from the Midwest. Don't pretend to know French or speak French. So, anyway, the last two times that these teams played, Siakam put up 22 points in 37 minutes. It's kind of neat. That was, 17% of the team's total points. It typically contributes a lot, especially if you look at some of the other games. Here, almost a quarter of the team's points. Again, pretty consistently 20 to 25-ish% of the team's total points, which is impactful. Looks like all these books I use, the line's at 25.5. So I'll use this model here. So this model does some Bayesian inference, and it uses the player's previous year to calculate some good Bayesian priors, and then it goes through for this season and comes up with some Bayesian inference of in this year's sample, or in this year's set of scores per game or stats per game, whatever stat you're looking at here, how likely is it that if you select one game out of that distribution of points, in this case per game, that the value you select is going to be less than wherever you move this line. Seems to do pretty well, but just a little background there on what it's doing. 25.5, the model's saying that there's an 83% chance that this next game is going to be under that for Siakam. That kind of tracks with what you can intuitively see here from the averages. The last 3 games, that's this green line here, he's averaged 26.3 points per game. Last 5 has been 25.6. Last 10, it's going down as this window gets longer. And that thicker red line there at the bottom, that's his season-long average so far of just about 23 points. So I like the under here. And with the model saying that it's an 83% chance, I can definitely find a line that has shorter odds than minus 488. So again, just going to scroll through here and pick the book that has the best price at that line. So far it's Caesars at minus 122. Hard Rock, no surprise. They often have lines that look out of sync with the rest of the market. Looks like BetMGM has the same price as Hard Rock. DraftKings. All right. Well, we'll take it at Hard Rock here. Again, I'll just put it in my slip, and I'll bet it and share my bet along with this video. Yeah, so those are my 3 bets for this matchup between the Pacers and Hornets. Should be a fun one to watch.